Have you ever seen a video like this?
Today's mission. Ask a stranger directions to their house.
How about this?
Today's mission. At the end of the day, text your friend. Sorry, I skipped out on our plans today. I hope you all had fun.
At first, these videos just look like formulaic, funny videos. But behind the surface, it goes so much deeper. But how deep does it really go? And if you don't recognize these videos, that is perfectly fine. Today's Mission is a video series where multiple colorful characters are given quote-unquote missions by a narrator.
Today's mission. Today's mission. Today's mission. Put a fake for sale sign.
The videos by themselves just gives off this kind of strange and eerie vibe. For one, all of the videos have this kind of CRT TV feel to them. But on top of that, every video in this series takes place in some kind of dark and empty void. But regardless of the eerie feel of these videos, many of the shorts in this series are actually kind of funny, like this one right here.
Today's mission. Hide a walkie-talkie in your friend's bedroom and then speak into it late at night. Okay.
Now, a while back, this page began posting a mix of very mysterious videos, like this right here, and comedic videos as well, like right here.
Today's mission. Wearing a baseball glove, run up to people while frantically looking up and saying, I got it, I got it, I got it.
Most of the comedic videos on this account actually got a lot of views, and in return, got this account millions of followers and a lot of loyal fans. A lot of these videos, though, just feel like they're trying to tell us something. This right here is the first video posted onto the TikTok page, called Freakbait. And I know the name sounds pretty odd. For the sake of my wallet, I should probably refrain from saying it too much. Alright, so Freakbait is the name of the page. But looking through these old videos, like this one right here, or this one,
Activate sleeper cell 69420.
it's hard not to wonder if there's a deeper story to this entire channel. It's quite obvious that all of these videos are trying to send us a message, but we just need to look deeper into it.
Baby, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me behind? I don't know where you're sleeping, but you're resting on my mind.
Now, this account continued posting these type of videos, leading into what you would expect to see in many analog horror alternate reality games. Eventually though, we see this video here of a purple glowing person walking into some kind of dark alley.
Mom, come pick me up, I'm scared.
Now the next video, we see our purple character again,
That brownie was no joke. I shouldn't have eaten the whole
getting
thing.
dragged into some kind of wormhole or black hole. Now going further into this TikTok account's catalog, we get some other videos with our purple character pretty much just being funny.
Fuck banks. I keep all my money in a sack with a $sign on it.
Now, as for Freakbait's old videos, many of their videos don't really contribute to lore. Some seem like they do, but others...
During conversation, see how many times you can switch an item between your pockets. The bigger, the better.
they're just trying to be a little bit funny. So there's some contrast here that we need to account for. Now, we kept getting this pattern of content until Freakbait eventually started this entire video series called the Today's Mission series.
Today's mission. See how many times you can sneak the phrase, legend has it, in a conversation.
This right here is the first Today's Mission video that has been posted onto the Freakbait TikTok. Nothing too unusual, just our purple guy from earlier dancing in the middle of the void. But in the next video, we suddenly unlock a new character.
Today's mission. See how many things you can slip into people's pockets unnoticed.
this red guy right here. We're not completely sure who our characters' names are quite yet, or if they even have names. I should probably also mention that there is a Lime character as well. Same thing goes for this guy. We don't really know much about him, but there is a Lime character. But going further onto their page, we run into this video right here, which has a very interesting premise.
Today's mission. Mid-conversation, stop talking, look directly in their eyes and say, "Please wake up," and then continue the conversation like nothing ever happened.
Now we're still early on into the investigation, but by the looks of it, for what we have, maybe this is telling us that we could be in some kind of sleep state. Now a lot of people don't think this entire video series is an alternate reality game, but I can't help but just think that there's gotta be more to this entire channel. And it's not just because the owner of the channel commented on one of my videos saying, hey, we got more lore on the way, and it's also definitely not the fact that the owner of the channel confirmed that it was an ARG on their Patreon account. No, it wouldn't be any of those minor details. What really raised my alarm bells was this Reddit post right here, made by somebody who's really spearheading this entire ARG investigation. Their name is Kawispy.
I'm trying to just wrap my head around this, man. Me theorizing. Me going insane.
I'll leave a link in the description for them. Shout out to them. I want to be clear, my role in solving these ARGs are relatively small, and this project wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for these people right here. So all of their links will be in a Google Docs in the description below. But regardless, this Reddit post made it very clear to me that there was something else going on with this YouTube channel, and this is where it all starts. The Today's Mission series created by Freakbait depicts multiple characters performing quote-unquote missions given by a narrator.
This video was brought to you by Amazon, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia.
Most of the dialogue from the Today's Mission series is the narrator. However, the characters sometimes do one-off gigs, and sometimes it's implied that the voice isn't the narrators, but is the glowing characters.
Today's mission. Whoever you send this video to owes you $5. But not me. It doesn't count on me.
However, somewhat recently, they posted this video that broke that pattern. But before diving into this video, it should be noted that this video in particular is much further down the timeline from the videos that we've been looking at. But here it is.
Today's mission. Try to get your friends to say a specific word like sphincter or hullabaloo without saying the word itself.
Hey, Greenie. Lime.
Yeah.
Any updates on Reggie?
Nothing except all these Demiurge posters.
On a do-over. Space-time origami. What does that even mean?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey, did you say hullabaloo?
Now, tearing this video apart, we first off find out that our new character's name is Greenie, but they also happen to refer to Lime as well. Purple asks about someone named Reggie, but Lime says there's no new updates, except some kind of news article called Demiurge. Now, I want to clue into the article real quick. The title reads, "Need a coincidence? Tired of your past? Want a do-over?" And it displays an image of somebody falling through some sort of wormhole. Now, this suggests that we could be leaning into some kind of space theme, and we get more evidence for this when reading some of the visible words on the article, such as temporal readjustment, which implies possibly altering or manipulating time to get a desired outcome. And we also see other words too, such as retrocausality, which is a concept in physics where an action in the future in a quantum context could change or affect the past. Then we have other words such as quantum wave function correction. This ARG is definitely related to quantum physics. The wave function in quantum physics is supposed to describe the probability of states for particles. Now, the word correction might somehow imply collapsing or adjusting these probabilities into a desired outcome, a very specific desired outcome. Alright, so I don't really think I'm explaining very well what a wave function collapse is, so let me try this again. I feel like I needed an example of how to explain this. So say this is my particle, all right? And there are 3 possible states. So it could be right in front of my head, it could be right next to my head, or it could be to the left of my head on the other side. Now, what a wave function will do is basically measure and take account of all of the possible locations and take account for the spin of the particle. It'll take account for the weight of the particle, and it will consider how fast the particle is moving, which the probable state for this particle here, it will be right in front of my head, basically removing all of the other probabilities of my particle's state. Now, this is the weird thing. After considering all of those aspects, when you look at it, it collapses into the most probable state for the particle. When you look at it, it's quite strange, and it's almost as if when you're looking at the object, it acts as some kind of like action or touch. It affects the object somehow. So the idea here is that particles that aren't actively being observed are kind of unpredictable. There's a bunch of different states that the particle can be in, but we don't really know which state it is until we observe it. Now, if quantum physics is kind of freaking you out a little bit, don't worry, it also freaked out Einstein. That is right. Around the time when the idea of quantum physics was being birthed, he originally was very against the idea of quantum mechanics being completely random and quite unpredictable. In contrast, science is typically very predictable and there can be an answer to everything, and that is just not how quantum physics works. So don't worry, in general, it's just a really hard topic to wrap your mind around. So we have quantum mechanics and I guess time travel, and this is suggested further when we see this word right here. I can't read that.
Chronomorphological.
Now, this actually isn't a real word, but it's actually kind of a mix of words. So chrono is basically just time, and morphological is a structure or a form. So if we twist this around enough, this basically means manipulating and reshifting the structure of time. Now, we live in a time structure where we can only go forwards, but say if we manipulate this, we could allow ourselves to go backwards. This also could possibly open the doors for us to slow down time or even speed it up. Now, there are many other words that we could dissect here, but basically the entire summary of this entire article is that Demiurge Inc. is a company that specializes in quantum physics. They also seem to have a lot of technology too that allows them to manipulate space and time. There's also a few other words as well that relate to reality shifting and things that could manipulate our own reality. All in all, the ARG just got significantly more complicated. Now, I want to clue into the name of the article real quick. Demiurge. The definition of Demiurge is a being responsible for the creation of the universe. And in some theoretical systems, it's also known as being a subordinate to the supreme being. And the supreme being is considered to be the controller of the material world and is also very antagonistic to anything purely spiritual. So this doesn't really sound like a very nice name. On another note though, we can actually figure out who Reggie really is, because as the camera zooms out at the end of the video, we can see missing posters for our red character earlier appear in the frame. And putting the fact together that Lime and Purple are both worried about this Reggie character, and they both just so happen to have a bunch of missing posters of Red, that must mean Red's real name is Reggie. But all in all, how did Reggie go missing? Well, we get the answer to this in an earlier video. But first, there's a few more videos that may hold more significance to the story.
The year is 10 years from now. Behavioral pacemakers, brain implants that allow users complete control over their neurochemistry, have become massively popular. With the press of a button, users can induce sleep, soothe anxiety, or trigger release of a slew of neurochemicals.
The main thing I want to focus in on in this video is the fact that there are two new glowing characters, Blue and Orange. At this very moment, I'm not totally sure what their role is in the lore, but that can always change with time. These characters appear in a couple other videos, for example, this video right here.
Today's mission. Ask someone if they've ever experienced deja vu. Then tomorrow, ask them again.
And something very interesting about this video is that there's a follow-up to it the very next day.
Today's mission. Ask a friend if they've ever experienced deja vu. And then tomorrow, ask them again.
Now in two other videos, we can see our Purple character doing an unrelated mission.
Replace your family photos with pictures of Nicolas Cage.
Now this video is really weird. Not the Nicolas Cage part, I understand that, but this confirms that Purple has a family. Also, in another video, just a few days later, we end up seeing that Greenie has a family as well. Just something to note. Now let's start diving more into what happened to Reggie. Here we have a video of Reggie and Purple in a mission of 2 truths and a lie.
Today's mission. play a game of two truths and a lie, and make every statement an outrageous lie.
Next to them is a container that contains hydrogen cyanide, which is an incredibly dangerous chemical when you're exposed to it, and it can easily be lethal. And weirdly enough, it seems to be leaking towards our Reggie character. And by the looks of the following video, this may have made Reggie severely sick, as he's just laying flat on the ground next to Purple and Lime. Now moving along, we can see Reggie in the background of this video here, reading what seems to be a Demiurge article on a Demiurge building. The Demiurge building also looks very similar to Purple's very first video, but the video that we're going to take a look at next is going to pick up the pace so much more. It starts off with just a regular Today's Mission video.
Today's mission.
But then unexpectedly, a white van pulls up next to Reggie, and then a bunch of static people suddenly abduct Reggie, and all of this happens without Purple seeing a thing. Now in the following videos, we begin seeing missing posters for Reggie. Zooming into these missing posters, we can see that Reggie's full name is Reginald Brunswick III. Very fancy. It's also noted that he went missing under mysterious circumstances. We then see another video, a news broadcast, spreading the word of Reggie's disappearance. Following that, we reach ourselves back to the Hullabaloo video.
Any updates on Reggie?
In another video, we can see Purple sneaking a rubber ducky into Lime's pockets, then hiding behind a pile of garbage, which then we suddenly see a static person that was watching them. Now it's a little weird how Purple seems to be hiding with the static men, especially after they abducted Reggie. For all we know, Purple might actually be working with the static men too, and Lime has no idea. Now another small detail is the sign that Purple was hiding under, Freakville. So it seems like all of this is taking place inside of this little village that we haven't really seen much of. So that's interesting. Now moving on, we have this video here.
Today's mission. Offer to help someone with something trivial, like opening a door that's already open, or picking up something that's light.
Yo, is that a butt plug? That's what I thought, but look at it closely. There's something off. Yeah, the base is way too small. No, not that. I mean, it's some kind of mechanism. I can hear it whir on the inside like there's gears or something. Sometimes it beeps. Where'd you find it? It just appeared here. And you picked it up? Hey, I'm curious. Maybe it's a magic lamp or something. Yeah, the genie will come out of your ass. I don't know, man. I'd toss it. Toss it? I just found some alien device and you want to throw it away? Nah, man, nah. I'm holding on to this. Maybe it's important. Maybe it's got to do something with Reggie. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe I am.
Now this video leaves more questions than answers. It's just a little bit crazy. But Purple seems adamant that the butt plug has some kind of connection to their missing friend. What makes this even more wild though is that Freakbait posted this photo here of the internals of what seems to be a butt plug device. There's a lot to take in here, but that tells me that Purple is most definitely onto something with their theory. The butt plug is important. Now in the following two videos, we can see Lime and Purple continuing their mission to find Reggie, but we also finally find out what Purple's name is.
Today's mission. Approach a stranger and say, "Can I ask you a question?" When they say yes, say thanks and walk away.
Hey, Void Man. You don't recognize me? What? What are you talking about? It's me, Lime. I've never seen you before in my life. What?
Voidman. And Voidman was also talking with a New England accent, so maybe that's canon to the lore. Voidman is also just a very interesting name, because all of these videos seem to be taking place in a void. There's no sky, there's no landscape, it's just darkness. Void. Now a few videos later, and we get one of the most important videos in the series.
Today's mission. Throughout the day, verbally use emojis during conversation.
Dude, that's crazy, laughing emoji. Wait, what did you just say? I said that's crazy, laughing emoji. Laughing emoji? I don't know, man. It's compulsive, grimacing face emoji. Are you okay, man? I don't know. I've been hearing these voices, or this one voice in particular that always goes, "Today's mission," and then it tells me what to do, shrug emoji. And you do it? I can't help it. It feels like I'm in a loop. Recycling emoji. A loop? A loop or a series of loops. It's like all my memories are these short little loops. I can't remember much else. Eggplant, taco, water droplets emoji. Wait, what? Oh no. What? It's starting again.
This tells us a lot. So Voidman is in a constant loop of doing these missions, and it seems that he doesn't have any control over his actions. Even more crazy, every time the narrator speaks, Voidman can hear that. Now this might mean that Voidman is just now finding some kind of weak spots in the loops that he found himself in, and he's managed somehow to break the entire fourth wall with us. As for the others, Lime and Reggie, they had no idea that they were in a loop, but of course, we don't really know if Reggie knew or not. Okay, so why are they in a loop? Who put them in there? What's going on? What really is just going on? Baby. Chapter 2, the website. Now, something I haven't mentioned yet is that in many of FreakBait's videos, they mention a website.
We interrupt this mission with breaking news. You know when you're alone in a room, but you feel like someone's watching you? That's freakbait.com. You know those weird thoughts you have at night, right before you drift to sleep, that seem like they're coming from someone else? That's freakbait.com. You know when you're watching TV late at night and suddenly the woman in the yogurt commercial makes direct eye contact with you and says your full name in a monotone voice? That's freakbait.com. Freakbait.com, the website that visits you. We now return to your previously scheduled mission.
Freakbait.com. Entering the site into Google brings us here, an old-styled Windows 99 desktop page. And wow, there is a lot to soak up. Let's start with the pop-up that appears at the bottom of the screen. This website has been developed and implemented in conjunction with the Central Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Drug Enforcement Administration, National Reconnaissance Office, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and McDonald's Corporation. By clicking accept below, you agree to being subject to interminable surveillance, behavioral modification, remote dream transmissions, coercive persuasion, and undisclosed psychological experimentation. This is pretty much telling me that this entire site is pretty much government owned and partnered with many organizations, and of all things, McDonald's. They also mention a bunch of other fields that they're experimenting in, such as behavioral modification, remote dream transmissions, and other psychological experiments. But apart from that, they don't really break down the details for us. The idea though is that you would have no idea you're being experimented on, because most people don't read the terms of service. If I ever disappear under mysterious or confirmed circumstances, you know who did it. The government. Another thing to note is that sometimes when you open up the FreakBait page, the name of the tab open will read WOPR, War Operation Plan Response. The thing is, it doesn't actually always say that. I only caught that small detail when I was writing the script for this video. Now, the War Operation Plan Response is actually a real thing in our real world. It's actually a supercomputer called NORAD. That is incorrect. NORAD is actually an organization run by the United States and Canadian government. Its purpose is pretty much just to detect any dangers coming from the sky, I guess, for North America. And it basically just indefinitely runs war simulations to figure out the best strategic approaches to warfare. So this entire desktop page that we're looking at, I guess it's NORAD. Now when we try closing this tab, a bunch of pop-up ads start to appear on the screen, almost like there's some kind of adware on the desktop. Continuing through these ads, we're told that we have a virus, told we need to have a shower, hot singles in your area, crypto, a digital colonoscopy, and eventually it tells us that we're not supposed to be here. Suddenly, it goes haywire. It flashes diagrams of brains and also a visualization of a neural implant. Then we find ourselves at the mainframe, a login page. Underneath it, it reads, if you have to ask for the username and password you already lost before you started, give up now and forget you were ever here. Now somehow the computer or website flagged that we're not supposed to have access to the system, but unfortunately for it, it can't stop us from progressing further into the site. Well, it actually can stop us. It requires a username and password, and we don't really have much to go off of. Guessing the password also didn't work out for us either, so we're kind of stumped right now. Well, kind of stumped. We're not going to give up after getting this far into the ARG. Even though there might not be any clues for the login on the website, there still might be some clues in the back end of the website, which leads us to the source code. And oh boy, we found much more than just a login. Now digging deep into the source code, we find details like this right here. Can you unthink a thought? Does it leave behind a ghost? does the ship of Theseus apply to your mind? And then it leaves a website URL called Greyfield Ghostbox. Now, I don't want to get too stuck on this groundbreaking detail here before we find the username and password, but the website basically displays a neon sign that reads Greyfield, and it plays a very ominous soundtrack. All of this in some kind of void space. The text in the source code also mentioned another detail, the ship of Theseus, which I will let my good friend Jay Schlatt explain.
Imagine a ship that sails for hundreds and hundreds of years. Over that period, regular maintenance is done on it, parts are replaced, etc. Suppose over the course of time that each individual piece of the ship is replaced. Is it still the same ship? Is it still the ship of Theseus?
Is it still the same Tacoma?
Well, that's what I was about to say. My Tacoma is the ship of Theseus.
Now, as of right now, I'm not completely sure how the ship of Theseus is going to relate to the Greyfield website, but we're going to keep it in the back of our pocket for now. After some time of tearing apart the source code, we finally stumbled across a username called Freakbait and the password Red Herring. Now, when I found out that that password was Red Herring, that left a stab in the gut for me, because for those that don't know, the definition of red herring is basically a clue or piece of information that is intended to be misleading or distracting. So I'm thinking right now, whatever we end up finding after logging into this page, it might just have been made to mislead us and distract us from what's really happening here. But there's also a chance it might tell us a little bit more about Demiurge Inc. So let's dive in. Now, logging into the mainframe gives us access to two folders. One is named Freak Files, and the other is named Exhibit Cabinet. Now, opening up the Freak Files gives us a list of what seems to be a bunch of government projects under the name of MK Ultra. Many of these sub-projects seem to be targeted towards the use of drugs. LSD studies of Excised University. Sub-project 2, drugs. MK Ultra drug research. Many of the other sub-projects seem to target the neurological and psychological side of things, such as Boston Psychopathic Hospital, hypnosis at Excised University, and some other sub-projects are referring to sabotage. So it's clear that we walked in on some kind of massive government operation, but what seems to be most important in all of these details is MK Ultra. Now, this is actually a real program that used to be classified. It took place around 1953 to 1964. The goal of the program was to identify different drugs that they could utilize during interrogations to weaken individuals. Many people refer to it as a mind control experiment, but you could also argue that this was just psychological torture. But let's move on to the other tab, Exhibit Cabinet. Opening it reveals a list of different plans, images, and schematics. Many of these images are pretty hard to make out, and others are honestly just too smart for me. But we end up getting a hint that there's some kind of evil side to these images, with the names Dark Alliance, PSYOP, Delete Physical Violence. Particularly on this image here, we see a paper listing multiple revisions for an interrogation. Now, I don't really see why you would purposely revise a transcript to an interrogation, unless you were trying to hide something. And by the line, Delete Physical Violence, we see the clear intentions behind this revision. Another note that we should make about this paper is that on the top of the page, we briefly see a date, July 1984. There's also another page here, yes I have it, that reads a report prepared by the Subcommittee on Terrorism, Narcotics, and International Operations of the Committee on Foreign Relations, and it has a date on the bottom that reads December 1988. Another paper had the date of November 10th, 2005 listed. Looking deeper into the images, we also find propaganda PSYOP. We also get images of devices that could be used for high-energy physics, military attack surface maps, and even an assassination plan. There's no doubt in my mind that there's got to be some kind of major war that's being planned here. We see plans for propaganda, psyops, and even schematics for highly advanced devices. And to be clear, we have just gone over the cliff notes for all of these papers. There's government corruption, there's a bunch of secrets here too. Oh, I just noticed something. It says CIA on the paper right there. So I guess all of these papers are potentially CIA documents that we found. Cool. I can't believe I just found that. Now I want to pause for a minute because I actually don't know how much all of this information is going to relate to the main story that is building up in this ARG. I'm trying to step very carefully right now because the password said red herring. I want to be a little bit careful that we don't put too much reliance on what's happening right now. Now, even if all of these papers aren't actually that important for the lore of the ARG, I do think it opens a door for us to see more of the world that we are in right now. It seems like the world is very highly run by the government. The government is very corrupt by the looks of it, and they have a lot of secrets. Also, seemingly a war is either active right now or being planned as we speak. We have assassinations and even experiments done on civilians. What a terrible world. Heavily realistic though. This is very similar to our world, sadly. It's pretty hard to figure out what year we currently are in this ARG. There's been a couple dates thrown around, such as the 1950s, 1980s, but there's also been a paper with the dates of 2005 on it. And the technology that the government seems to have at this very moment gives me the idea that we're probably in the mid-2000s. Now obviously, all this talk about MK Ultra sparked many theories, but I don't want to add too much weight to them, just due to the potential of all of this being a red herring. But if we do run a little bit with this, it could possibly mean that all the videos we've seen with Voidman, Greenie, and Reggie, it could mean that all of this is taking place in some kind of sick MK Ultra mind controlling experiments. And we see Voidman realizing briefly that he lacks control of himself, so it's possible. But for the sake of just being careful, let's just leave it as a theory. Now let's walk it back a bit, all the way back to the website we found earlier, greyfield.com. Now we already briefly checked the source code for this site earlier, but what I didn't tell you is that we actually found several other messages that I just didn't cover.
Time is an emergent phenomenon, a stochastic side effect of quantum entanglement. Entropy only exists to the observer inside the system. Any outside observer sees a static universe, as the Wheeler-DeWitt equation and Page and Wooter's mechanism outline. But the exotic properties that exist within infinitely interdependent entangled quantum systems allow for every particle to be a sister particle, for every point in space and time to be a saddle point, oscillating in a zero-point virtual plasma of quantum foam. Electrons act as infinitesimally small naked singularities, primordial quantum Cool-Gale blitz, extending Planck time to infinity. Unevaporated event horizonless black holes shrunk down to their super-external limit. The infinite lattice of these wormholes form into a ergodic quantum graph in which every point collapses into a superposition. The collapse is a single emergent entity composed of all possible eigensecrets. The experiment requires you to continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. There is no other choice. You must go on.
Now, I'm not a professional and I'm still trying to figure out the fundamentals of quantum mechanics, but here's what I think is going on here. So at the beginning, when it says that time is an emergent phenomenon, that is actually a result from an equation discovered by Wheeler-DeWitt. And it basically tells us whoever or whatever is inside of the boundaries of space and time will be able to experience and observe time, having the ability to watch time pass. But for anything outside of those boundaries, our universe and anything else that is ruled by time would appear as static and unchanging. Now, further down this dialogue, it references something called a sister particle, which now opens the door for us to talk about quantum entanglement. Now, one of the properties of quantum mechanics is that everything is interconnected, and in a way kind of acts as a fabric. But oddly enough, this interconnection between particles can stretch very far, potentially across galaxies. And some theories even suggest that this interconnection within particles can continue on through different dimensions that we, as humans, cannot perceive. Now, further down, we see this right here. Primordial quantum Cool-Gale blitz, expanding Planck time to infinity. Now, Planck time is just essentially the smallest measurement of time that we can measure, and it's probably pretty important to know that measurement. Now, regardless, in very simple words, this tells me that incredibly tiny quantum-sized black holes were formed from a high concentration of light during the birth of our universe. Now we should probably ask ourselves, how are black holes formed? And it's actually quite interesting. So when large amounts of mass get packed into an incredibly small space, it will collapse onto itself, resulting in a gravitational pull so strong that nothing can escape it, not even light. Now this might explain to us why the dialogue referred to the Markov Ouroboros symbol of a snake eating its own tail in a self-consistent loop. Now my theory on this is a little bit wild, but I think that the universe was birthed from the collapse of a past universe, and I think something had to have caused the past universe to collapse. I just don't know how. Now, a side note that I want to add to this is that I'm pretty positive that the government has some ties to Demiurge Inc. For one, the technology that Demiurge Inc. seems to possess is far more advanced than any regular corporation could obtain. Now, also, the name Demiurge, we've gone over this earlier. The meaning of Demiurge, creator of the universe and stuff. Now, if my theory is correct, this would tell me that Demiurge's goal is to, one, create a universe. But in order to create a universe, they would have to destroy it.
And so I have a particular opinion on this, in which, yes, it is the ship of Theseus.
How come?
Because it's got the same crew, it's got the same soul, it's gone on all those journeys together, and each piece welcomes in its replacement.
Now, this is exactly why I didn't want to say the MK Ultra project was the main bit of the story. What the f is this, dude? Now, it's clear to me that this entire story is going to have a huge emphasis on quantum mechanics. Personally, for me, I'm actually terrified about that, so if there's any professors that are watching this video, or if you know a professor that is in this field, send them my way, please. I really need them. This definitely leaves a lot to speculate. Voidman also mentions how he can't control his actions very well, as if he was brainwashed, which heavily relates to the MK Ultra projects. There's also this eerie mention of a collapse, and it's imminent. We're also told that we have no other choice, and we have to continue on with the story. We have to continue on to DemiurgeInc.com.
At Demiurge Incorporated, we push the boundaries of innovation and exploration. Our cutting-edge research redefines what is possible, unlocking the mysteries of the universe and existence itself. With over 3 decades of pioneering breakthroughs in quantum mechanics, dimensional study, and applied reality theory, our work challenges the limitations of known science. We venture where others won't, exploring new frontiers in fields such as temporal mechanics and void space navigation. Our world is more interconnected than ever, and at Demiurge, we believe in connecting the unseen. Demiurge Incorporated. Discover the future. Shape reality. The void is waiting.
Now, I have no idea how many episodes we're gonna have in this series, but there's gonna be a few. Funny enough, as of recording this, I know a lot more information than you do. If you want to get ahead on the info, go ahead and join the Discord server in the link in the description below. I heavily advise you to subscribe to this channel, as you probably don't want to miss out on this series, and also I really hope we hit 40,000 subscribers, so that would be really cool if we did, so subscribe. Now, thank you to my channel members for supporting the channel. Thank you to Haley, Trixmate, who is a V2, Lenodi, Food History, The Crabman, Ral, Autumn, Insomnia, Turtle, Smiley Toad, and a Squeakiel for supporting the channel. Very cool, very lit, thanks. Now, it's no secret that many YouTubers and creators are creating ARGs nowadays, but I bet you didn't expect companies to be making ARGs as well. Go ahead and check out this video where I looked at the Nutter Butter ARG. I know, that sounds crazy. Nutter Butter recently started posting exclusively analog horror videos, which are just very ARG-esque, and I think there might be an ARG behind it, so go ahead and check out this video right here.